Hey everyone, I'm your astrologer Brittany of Ethereal Astrology with horoscopes inspired by the moon. Let me be your guide. Today you're watching the Astrology Horoscope for the new moon in Capricorn, which occurs on Friday, December 23rd, 2022 at 5:17 a.m. Eastern Time or 2:17 a.m. Pacific Time, depending upon where you're located. Now, what I think this new moon in Capricorn is really all about is about us figuring out, I think, how to manage and structure our lives in a much better way after this point in order to put it in a better direction, which is a very, very good thing. However, in order for us to put our lives in a better direction, we're also realizing that it's going to require us to redo and rework and rethink a lot of things before in order to get to this better place, which I think is a bit frustrating here that we're going to have to come to terms with here in order to move forward. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. If you want to hear more about that, please do stay tuned because we're going to go ahead and talk about it right now. In order to get started, what I like to do first is, of course, just place on the chart what it is that I'm referring to in this video so that you can see it and follow along with me. So let me do that now. This video here is for the new moon in Capricorn on Friday, December 23rd, 2022. As a result, I have adjusted this chart accordingly for that new moon. I know that because I've got the moon here and the sun in the exact same sign in the exact same degree here of Capricorn here together. And when the moon is conjunct the sun here, that does make it a new moon. What are new moons all about? New moons are all about new beginnings, new energy here, and fresh starts. What are we getting a new beginning or new energy or fresh start in? The sign of Capricorn, because that's where the new moon is. What is Capricorn about? Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign ruled by Saturn. It's a lot about managing and structuring our lives. Not only that, it's about managing and structuring our lives so that they're going in a better direction that I think is going to be just like better for us more long term here. Not only that, but Capricorn is a more serious sign as well. That's more responsible, intelligent, intentional is the word that I want to use here, and diligent as well. So that's what I think is going on here at this new moon, is that we're getting a new energy, new boost, fresh start here to basically manage and structure our lives in a different and better way. That's going to put it in a better direction and for us to be more serious, intentional, and diligent about the whole thing to make sure that it goes right or goes in the best way possible. Okay, and that's it. Now, before I move forward to tell you more specifics here about that main theme and how it's going to play out, I do just want to go backwards in time for a minute here before I go forwards in order to give you more of the context of how we got here and of why that is now coming up to be felt, lived through, and experienced. And to go back in time, I want to go back to an alignment that actually occurred about 2 years ago now to kind of catch us up there. And that alignment is going to be the beginning, I think it was like January to April, roughly here of 2020. Around that time, we had Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter make a conjunction right here in the sign of Capricorn where this new moon is, which is a very rare thing to happen. Saturn and Pluto only come conjunct about every 35 years and not always with Jupiter there. Not only was that a very rare thing to happen in 2020, but it was also a very unpleasant thing to happen because Saturn and Pluto are not really the easiest of planets to deal with, and I don't think Jupiter really helped that much. So that was a very challenging alignment. What was the very challenging, rare thing that was going on then? Well, I believe that alignment was about us realizing that we needed to make big Jupiter change Pluto and the structure of our lives, Saturn and Capricorn, because the way that we were living our lives prior to that point, for maybe even many decades, prior to that wasn't really working for us anymore, or was no longer in alignment with who we were becoming here. That I think it's hard, right? It's hard to realize you got to redo a lot of stuff. Okay, not only do I want to mention that, but I also need to note that in between January to April of 2020, and a new moon solar eclipse in Taurus here earlier this year, I think it was about April of 2022, we then made a lot of changes in those 2 years here to end, right? Things that were no longer working for us, no longer in alignment here, and kind of get our foot in the door of a new and better experience as we move forward. And I think in April of 2022, this year, at that solar eclipse in Taurus, we finally did that. We finally got our foot in the door of a little bit of a new and better experience of life. It wasn't the complete new and better experience of life because we had just like by the skin of our teeth escaped this old stuff. So it wasn't like everything we hoped it to be. It wasn't fully fleshed out, but we still in April of 2022 got our foot in the door of a new and better experience of life here, which I think was meant to be helpful in some way. Okay. After that point, I think it was also April of 2022 of this year, 2 weeks later, we had a full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio here that was going on. And what I think happened around that full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio is that we then tried to take this new beginning that we had just gotten here and move it forward to create even more new, different, and better experiences in life after this point. And I think around that full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio 2 weeks later, we then felt blocked from continuing on this upward trajectory to bring more things together in our lives. That was very, very hard and frustrating and made us feel stuck. And I think what we realized at that full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio was that the reason why we were stuck here is because we were trying to build this new chapter of life that we were now in by an old standard that really no longer applied, and by an old perspective, and that we needed to change, right? Scorpio is about change, and that we needed to change fundamentally our approach to life from here on out as we move forward, because building something new requires a different skill set than tearing down something old. And I think what we realized also in April of 2022 is that the new perspective that we needed to change to be in order to build something new and have it work was that we needed to change our perspective to be more one towards stability and security here, and focusing on that and on what will be the most stable and secure thing for us to do here, and on focusing on our own needs and values over our desires and over our emotional wants. Here, I think we also learned as well that we needed to change too our perspective to be more thrifty, saving money, and more self-reliant and independent here, where we aren't relying so much on other people or intertwining ourselves with other people, especially other people who we aren't really sure about here as we move forward. And I think that was a helpful thing, but even though that was a helpful thing for us to realize around April of 2022, I think it was kind of hard for us to get through our head and to live in accordance with, and kind of took us some time to get used to until August of this same year, right, of which we're on August of 2022, which was like a few months ago, around a new moon in Leo, while Mars was in Taurus on that same eclipse spot where we had the solar eclipse earlier in April. And I think what happened in August of 2022 is that we finally started to get more with it, to get more with like the new approach to life here that was slower, more stable, more secure, based on our needs and values, more thrifty, saving money, more independent, more self-reliant. I think we finally started to get it through our head and to try now to do the things that we wanted to do in April of this year, and to kind of pick those up again. And I think that that was a good thing. And I think we were able to make a little bit of progress now in August to improve our lives in a better way. But even though we were able to make a little bit of progress in August 2022, now that we had got this different perspective through our head, I still don't think it fully was able to come together, that more new and better things were able to fully come together in the ways that it is that we would really have liked there, especially because of the next eclipse that we had in October of 2022 in Scorpio here in Taurus. And I think what we realized in October of this year is that the reason why we were starting to be able to move things forward in our life, but it still wasn't entirely coming together, was because we still had old perspectives, old things that were not helpful, that still needed to be rooted out, and old things in our lives, like people, places, things that were no longer conducive to the new paradigm and to the new life that we needed to leave behind here. And I think in October of 2022, we started to get rid of more of these old mindsets in the way, and old things that were no longer working with the new life, the new paradigm. And I think we did that, and us doing that finally around last month, November, around the full moon in Gemini, I think gave us a much better perspective here on our situation now that we didn't have these old things. Not only did it give us a much better perspective on our situation, but I think that full moon in Gemini 2 weeks ago, and I guess it was December, fully started to hammer home, I think, just how important going slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, thrifty, independent really was, even if it wasn't like the big, fancy, exciting answer that it is that we were looking for. And because finally around that full moon in Gemini 2 weeks ago, November, December of 2022, we finally got it hammered through our head that like slow, stable, secure is really the way to go in order to build this stuff up, build a new life in the way that we needed. We now, this time period, right, for which this video is for, are starting to feel like we can manage and structure our lives now in a much better way, now that we have like a more realistic, correct, accurate approach to it that is actually going to put our life in a better direction for us here as we move forward and create better results. And now we're being more serious and intentional about it all here as we move forward. Okay, and that's it, because that's all I'm going to say in terms of the context, and that was quite a bit. I'm just going to repeat all of that here one more time without the astrological jargon, so that you can hopefully get a better idea of what I think is going on here. So let me do that now. What I think is the big picture here of this new moon in Capricorn here at this time is that what we're doing at this new moon in Capricorn is that I think we're finally understanding here just how much slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, thrifty, saving money is the way to go in our lives to move forward, creating more successful new situations. And we're being more serious and diligent and intentional here about the whole thing here, so that we can improve our lives from here on out, especially after learning a lot over the course of the past year of just how important that a slower and more sensible approach to life really is. Okay, and that's it. Because that's it, I'm now going to move forward and get more specific here about this new moon and the aspects in particular that it's making, so you can get a better idea of what is going on here at this new moon. Okay, so I'm now going to take a look at those specific aspects, and to do that, I'm going to start back here with the new moon really quickly. So we've got the new moon here, 1 degree Capricorn. Again, that new moon in Capricorn is about us managing and structuring our lives better and being more diligent about how to do all of that here, so that it will get us the best result. Okay. The next thing that I want to mention here, that this new moon is making a very important square here. It's like only alignment, but it's a very important one. Over here to Jupiter in the sign of Aries. Okay, this alignment I do personally like. I know not all astrologers are this way, but I personally do tend to interpret Jupiter positive most of the time, more often than not. Even if it's by a hard aspect, I tend to interpret Jupiter positive, even by hard aspect, because to me, Jupiter is about wisdom and understanding and learning. And where there's wisdom and understanding, I think good things occur. So I do like it. What is the wisdom and understanding that it is that we're getting? Well, Jupiter is here in Aries direct, where it was, I need to note, earlier this year. It's now back to kind of stay. And Aries is a lot about our identity. It's also about our behaviors, how we act, being a Mars ruled sign. Not only that, but Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. The first sign starts a whole new cycle. So not only is Aries about our identity and how we act, but a lot of times it's about a new identity, a new way of behaving, that's starting a new cycle that's very different than what it was before. So I think we're getting wisdom and understanding here, right? About a new way of behaving and acting, a new way of being after this point. And with Jupiter already been here, it's already been here in Aries for a lot of this year. It's us more fully getting the acceptance, not only the wisdom understanding of a new approach to life, but the acceptance here of what that is here, and why that might be necessary here as well. What is this new approach to life? Well, it's the same approach that I've been talking about in all my other videos and in the context, the earlier section of this video here, which is the North Node in Taurus, right? The North Node is in Taurus. The nodes are where the eclipses occur, and Taurus is about slow, stable, secure, independent, self-reliant, thrifty, saving money, and not getting so intertwined with other people here, and on focusing more on our needs and values. Okay, so that's what I think is going on there, that we're finally understanding and accepting. Not only that, but this is connecting here to the new moon by square, and squares to me indicate things that need to be done together here. And Capricorn, again, is about this like serious, responsible, diligent, intentional way of life that's going to manage it and structure it better here. That is going on. So this alignment, to me, is definitely us starting to understand like why slow, stable, secure, self-reliant is so important here as a new and different approach to life in order for us to move forward and accepting it. not being frustrated about it like we were all this year, not ignoring it like I think a lot of people were this year, but us finally starting to gain acceptance of like, this is what needs to happen, and realizing that we now need to be more serious about it, more diligent about it, to not just hope that like slow, stable, secure will happen on its own, but for us to realize that we need to take on the mantle, the responsibility over our own lives to fix it, to make it better, to make it the way that it needs to be from here on out. Okay, that's going on here. Not only do I want to point that out about this alignment, but maybe I also want to note one thing. It is kind of unique here that all of these planets, right, there's 3 of them, the moon, the sun, and Jupiter, are at the very beginning degrees, 0 and 1 degrees of a sign. That's not always the case. It actually hasn't been the case, I don't think, for most of this past year, even though it's going to become more common next year with the new moons and the being here at the beginning of the sign. But I also think that that's significant. The first degrees of a sign do indicate fresh starts, right? Fresh starts, doing something differently. So I know I've already said that multiple times in this video, but it's extra. I think it's a huge thing here that's extra big, that so many things are pointing to in the astrology, is like we're finally getting it, finally getting a new approach to life through our heads here, finally getting it and accepting it here more fully and ready to more fully embrace it in a more responsible way. Okay, so that's what it is. I personally like it when a lot of things in astrology say similar things, because it means that the interpretation is accurate, we're really onto something, and there's a point that's really trying to be hammered home here. And so I think that that's important to note. Okay, going on, not only maybe do I want to say this, but sometimes too, the first degrees of a sign in Jupiter can be exuberant. They can be a little more optimistic as well, right? They're young, youthful. So not only is there this sense here at this new moon in Capricorn of like, I'm getting a new approach to life, slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, independent, thrifty, and I'm realizing the importance of it more fully, and I'm accepting it and coming to terms with it, and going to be more serious and diligent and responsible about it. But I'm optimistic, right? I'm optimistic that this is going to help, that this is going to work here as we move forward. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention here, going on at this new moon, not in a direct aspect to it, but around it, and that's going to be Mercury here in pre-retrograde shadow in Capricorn. Here that's happening. Maybe I'll start there. What do I want to say about that? Well, Mercury, now this is a little bit of a challenging alignment. Let me start there. Even though I love the new moon square Jupiter, it's great. Mercury is in pre-retrograde shadow at the same time as this. And I should also note it's in a square to Chiron here as well. And this is a challenge. Why is it a challenge? Well, it's a challenge because it's a planet that's about to very soon go backwards, right? Or appear to go backwards, opposite its natural direction. And because a square can be hard, especially when Chiron here is involved, that's going on. What is the difficulty here? Well, Mercury is about a few things. It is about our mindset and the way that we think, but it also too is about our physical environment as well here, and tangible things in our reality, because Mercury correlates to both the signs of Gemini, the mind, and a Virgo, an earth sign, of some physical things here as well. And when it goes retrograde, it means there's something about both of those things that hasn't been done correctly here that needs to be readjusted, reevaluated, rethought, or redone, within our physical environment here as we move forward. And sometimes, right, it's unpleasant to have to rethink things that aren't quite where we need them to be here as we move forward. That's going on. What are we having to rethink or redo? Well, Mercury's in Capricorn, which is a lot about the direction of our life and the structure of it here, and very important things. Capricorn deals with important matters, very important things in our life here that are going on, which I do think for a lot of you can correlate to jobs and health situations and relationships, right? Especially with Venus being so close by as well, which I'll talk more about in a minute. So what that means to me, I guess, to bring it together here so far, is that what's going on at this new moon in Capricorn is that we are finally, I think, getting more wisdom and understanding about a new approach to life, the slow, stable, secure, thrifty, self-reliant that we've really been trying to get all of this year. We're becoming more accepting of it, that this is now what needs to happen, and more serious and diligent and responsible and intentional about that approach here, so that we can build things in our lives better as we move forward, which is great. But even though we're finally getting this better approach to life, at the same time we're getting this better approach to life, we're realizing that there are a lot of things we have done in our lives prior to this point, I think especially over the course of the past 2 years here, that are not in service of this approach, of this slower, stable, secure approach here, that now need to be rethought, reevaluated, recommunicated about, and done very differently here, and need to be fixed here in order for us to move forward, which is uncomfortable here, because it's uncomfortable to have to go back to fix things that weren't done right, especially when they're very big, significant things here that are holding us back. So this is a bit of a challenge here as well that's going on, especially too, I need to note, because I think us redoing things, when we do redo them, may cause arguments and disagreements, especially as we get a week from now with the first quarter moon and the full moon and onwards. It may cause arguments, it may cause disagreements, it may startle some people here in the process. So it's a little bit of an uncomfortable thing to realize. Okay, but even though that's uncomfortable, again, I do feel like there's more of an optimistic vibe to this new moon than otherwise, because not only is this new moon square Jupiter, but I need to note that this Mercury in pre-retrograde shadow here squaring Chiron is doing it here in a conjunction to Venus. It's going to go retrograde in a conjunction to Venus here, while Chiron most recently stationed direct, both of which I do think are helpful. Why do I think it's helpful? Well, when something goes direct here, which Chiron has recently done, or is about to do, very close proximity to this new moon, it's typically, to me, a very positive thing, kind of giving us some kind of momentum here to push through things, in a better way. And Chiron, and to get some insight about how to do so. And Chiron is a lot about health and healing when positive. Here that's going on. So even though there is this feeling of like, great, I gotta redo some stuff that hasn't been done, slow, stable, secure, and that isn't where it needs to be, and maybe I have to upset some people, I think deep down there's this sense of like, but it is the healthy thing to do. It is the healthy thing to do. It's the healing thing to do. It's going to help me fix my situation, and fix a lot of things from the past that have been hurtful for me, that have persisted. Not only that, but Venus is close by, and Venus being correlated to Taurus is a lot about need and usefulness, what the situation needs and is useful. Not only that, but it's also a lot about comfort, beauty, maybe even fairness, with it being correlated to Libra as well. So not only, yes, is this like a difficult thing that we're going to have to redo stuff like that's going on, but I think we're understanding here that it's actually a really healthy thing if we just redo the stuff. That's going to be really helpful to fix a lot of stuff from the past and heal from that here, and that it's what needs to happen. It's what needs to happen here, which is helping us feel a little bit more comfortable with these difficult things than maybe we would have otherwise. Here that's going on. Okay, that then leads me now, I think, to the last alignment I'm really going to mention here in this video, which is the fact that the same Mercury and Venus that we've been talking about is making a trine here to Uranus and the North Node in Taurus. Here that's going on. I also want to consider this somewhat of a helpful thing. I guess it depends what side of this you're on, but I want to consider it somewhat of a helpful thing because I tend to like the North Node here and interpret trines more positively, right? And we do have Mercury and Venus involved, which are both benefic planets. Here, what is the good thing? Well, Uranus can indicate sudden unexpected insight or inspiration here, possibly even events, and the North Node does have to do with like our future and what will help us make that better. So what that means to me here is that at this new moon in Capricorn, we are realizing here that we need to go even slower, stable, secure here, and more fully accept that and do that in a serious, responsible way. Here, which is going to require us to redo just a lot of things in our life that like aren't where they need to be, which is frustrating, right? But ultimately good for us. And this is us maybe realizing unexpectedly how important this is, and unexpectedly maybe even taking action here to fix these things, unexpectedly taking action and finding the inspiration and the motivation to fix these things that are not where we want them to be here in order for us to move onwards. Okay. Again, maybe I need to clarify. I do think this unexpected inspiration is a good thing here for us to fix things. And I do believe we need to fix stuff, and we need to make a choice. We need to make a choice. Like, that's the best advice I can give you. You need to make a choice to fix things that are no longer in alignment with yourself in this different approach. But I should also maybe be clear, even though I'm interpreting this in a positive thing, right? For some of you, it could not appear to be so positive, because someone else could be startling you. Someone else could realize, oh, I'm dealing with this person in my life. I don't like it. I need to fix it. And then they could startle you, and you could not be expecting it and not want to fix the thing that needs to go on. So keep that in mind. I do believe that us fixing things unexpectedly, right, that aren't where they need to be is good, but it does depend what side of it you're on. Some of you may not like to be surprised and have someone fix something with you. The other thing that I want to note as well is that Uranus and the North Node are about the future and doing things in unique and different ways. So if someone does surprise you, right, to fix things with you that you don't like, the advice here is to not try to keep things the same, because that's going to backfire and it's not going to work now or later here, but to be willing to go with the adjustments, to go with the changes here, to do things differently, to shake things up here, and to not be afraid to innovate here as we move forward. That's going on. Okay, and I think that's all I'm going to say here in this video. Because that's it, I'm now just going to repeat all of those things one last time here without the astrological jargon, so you can get a different and a better idea of what I think is happening here. So let me do that now. What I think is going on here at this new moon in Capricorn is that we are finally realizing, I think, just how much we need to adopt a slower, more stable, secure, self-reliant, independent, thrifty approach to life in order to move it forward. And we're becoming more accepting of this approach to life and more serious and diligent and intentional about it here, which is a very, very good thing, you know, helping us to feel like we can finally put our lives in a better direction. But even though it is a very, very good thing here that we're finally getting a slow, stable, secure approach to life that's better, it's a very challenging thing, because the more we adopt this different approach to life, we're realizing that there are current things in our life, in our current existence, that don't match up to this different approach to life. That's more in tune with our needs and values when it comes to relationships, money, jobs, health situations, habits that now need to be fixed, that now need to be redone, rethought, retalked about, reworked, fixed. Here, that feels like it might take some effort here, maybe upset or surprise some people that is going on that we might not want to do. But even though we're realizing we have a lot of stuff to redo in order to get our lives better, that's frustrating. I think somewhere deep down, we're realizing that us redoing this stuff really is going to be the healthy thing, the helpful thing to help us overcome a lot of hurts from the past, and really is going to be the useful, the most useful and necessary thing that we can do here in order to improve our situations, which may lead, I think, some of us suddenly and unexpectedly to then take action, right? To then take action here to fix these things that aren't where they need to be, according to this different approach, to get them in a better way going on, which may surprise some people who are not on the right, who are not on the best side, not on the best side of this energy, and maybe didn't see it coming. Okay. And that's going on, and we need to not be afraid to make these changes, to redo this stuff, and to do it in a drastically different way than it was done before. Okay, and that's it. What else do I want to say? The next thing that I want to note, now I like to add just like a few more quick notes here about the energy in this section of the video. The one thing that I want to say is that if a lot of you have been watching my videos, especially since April of this year, this has been like my drumbeat, like go slow, stable, secure, independent, self-reliant, thrifty, saving money and focusing on your own needs and values and not your wants and desires. Okay, excuse me. I've been saying that from the very beginning of this year. Those of you who have been heeding that advice, or just naturally like been feeling that intuitively, like from the energy, those of you who have been doing that are going to have a much easier time of this energy. You're going to have less to fix. You're going to have less to fix, less to readjust, less to do. And the things you do have to fix and readjust are not going to be big deals. You know, they're not going to be big arguments. They're not going to shake up your life. They're going to be little smaller things to just tweak and take care of that are going to be fine. And then there's others of you who earlier this year either didn't heed my advice or didn't fully understand the advice that I was giving you here, or just didn't get it, didn't get what was needed, and didn't pick up on it intuitively or from the energy, who in between, like then and now, created a lot of messes because you went too fast, too intertwined with other people, gave your power away to others, didn't do what you needed financially and otherwise, but just did stuff that you thought you wanted, that was going on, that now we're going to have big issues that are now going to have a lot to fix, over the course of the next few months that can create huge arguments and huge issues that's going on. So please keep that in mind here. Keep that in mind. Everyone, I do think, has to redo some things here in a different way that's better, slow, stable, secure, more in tune with our needs and values. But some people are getting it way worse than other people because of your past behaviors, and whatever you've done prior to this point here that you need to keep in mind. And that is a Capricorn thing, right? Like this new moon's in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is a lot about karma, and all karma means is the result of your past actions. And there is good karma and there is bad karma, right? And those of you who've acted accordingly the past few months are going to have good karma, are going to still have to fix stuff, but no big deal. It's going to feel constructive. And others of you, right, didn't do the right thing, and now we're going to have bad karma. Saturn's going to come down and say, look, you got to fix this even if it's hard here in order to move forward. So keep that in mind. Another thing that I want to note is that even though I do believe there are two different experiences of this, one's better than the other, I do believe both groups are going to feel some kind of sense of like, this is the right thing to do. So the people who have it easier are going to say, yeah, this is the right thing to do. I need to just rework a few things. It's going to be fine. And the people who have a huge mess to clean up are also going to feel like, oh, I got a huge mess to clean up, but it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for my situation, especially with the Capricorn likes to do the right thing here, and the Jupiter and Aries and all this stuff at the beginning of degrees that's gone on here. Okay, so I want to note that here. Why now are both groups of people having to redo some things here? I think both groups of people, whether it's good or bad, right, are having to redo things now after learning, over the course of the past few years. I think we've learned a lot about ourselves and our experience and what is and isn't working here, especially as we move into a new experience of life. So I think we're having to redo stuff now with more knowledge, especially with the Mars been retrograde, with more knowledge and information here about what our situation actually requires here so that we can move forward. Another reason why there's a need to redo things too, maybe to take it bigger picture, to step out a minute. Another reason why I think a lot of people are having to redo things, especially those on the more negative side, is because over the course of the past 2 years, especially from 2020 to 2022, when we had the solar eclipses in Gemini and Sag, I think a lot of people weren't that smart, about what exactly they were bringing into their lives here that was new, different, and better, right? Because the whole point of the past few years is to escape hard times and come into better times. And I think from 2020, here, maybe I'll write it on the chart, to 2022, a lot of people weren't that serious, about what they were ending in their life or bringing into their life, relationships and otherwise. All that a lot of people were thinking about was just escaping. I just want to escape a hard time. I don't care what new thing. I don't care. I just want to get out of this relationship. I don't care who I sleep with next. I just want to get out of this job. I don't care what kind of job I get. I think that was the problem. I think that was the problem here that then created a lot of the issues. And part of the reason why a lot of people, especially who are on the more negative side of this energy, are going to have to fix a lot is because whatever you did to escape these old times in life were not really based on the real reality of your situation and what your situation actually needed, but were based on knee-jerk reactions to escape this stuff and to just secure a situation, in a new experience that needed to go on. Okay. Right. And the people, maybe to bring it more together, and the people who caught that in April and realized, shoot, for 2020 to 2022, I've just been doing whatever I could to escape these things, and I haven't been thinking about it. I need to slow down here and be more sensible so that I'm not repeating and making more of a mess, are now having an easier time after learning a bit. And those people who didn't in April of 2022 realized, shoot, I'm making a lot of dumb decisions just to escape trauma and escape this stuff here, and just kept doing things that weren't the most useful, right now have a lot of stuff to fix here as we move onwards. So yeah, that's what I want to note. and it needs to be fixed to be more, right, slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, independent, thrifty, saving money, and in tune with your needs and values and not your wants and desires, which are different. They're different. Okay. Another thing that I want to note is that there is another thing that is going on in the astrology here, which is a lot about honoring more of our intuition, honoring more of our heart, our soul, our emotions, the soft and sensitive parts of ourselves that are emotional, that do care about ourselves deeply and other people and how they're doing. There is also some of that that's going on here with the opposite point of Pluto here, which is kind of conjunct this Mercury retrograde, but the opposite point of Pluto here in Cancer, which is very important to me because I do evolutionary astrology, right? And Cancer is about, honoring the soft underbelly, so to speak, about our lives. So I think another thing that I want to note is that another reason why we're redoing perhaps some things here that weren't right too is not only because over the course of the past few years, we've just been doing anything crazy just to get out of a hard time and haven't been that smart about it and that sensible about it. That's been going on, but also too because we've still been ignoring like the deepest parts of our heart and soul and what's truly meaningful for us as well. So I think that's another reason why things need to be reworked. Too, and we need to rework things not only to be more in tune with our needs and values and more stable and secure, but also more in tune with like the truth of our soul and who we are. Okay, but even though that is also another thing that's going on, I need to note that's a secondary thing. First and foremost is stabilizing our situations and aligning them with our needs and values. Okay, and the reason why the listening to our heart and the intuition is more secondary here is because how can you honor your heart and soul if your life is in free fall? If your life is still in free fall and if you don't have the basics there that are in alignment with your needs and values, it's very hard to do that. You need to kind of get a secure place for yourself first before the emotions can come into the picture. Another reason why, right, which is maybe why Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac and Cancer is the fourth. Another reason why I think that honoring our emotions and our intuition is still secondary too is because that's next year, and next year I mean next solar year, which occurs after Aries season, right? At Aries season, like the first day of Aries season in March of 2023. The next solar year from Aries season 2023 to Aries season 2024, right? That's more about reclaiming the emotions, the heart, the soul, the true self. That's more about that once this has been done first. So I think that's also just another thought that I wanted to add. There's another theme that's related to this one that is together here, but the heart and the soul and honoring more of that is more next year, and like a big theme. That's really the big theme of next year that is finally going to start to come into the picture, but you gotta do this first. Okay, that's going on, and readjust things that aren't slow, stable, secure, and in alignment with your needs and values. What maybe are some examples that now that I should give you about this? Well, what's gone on is that some of you, since April of 2020, since the beginning of 2020, have just been trying to escape negative relationships or a negative marriage. And so what some of you may have done, and I'm going to give the more challenging examples because you're the people who need the most help. So what some of you may have done is that you ended a terrible marriage in 2020 and you immediately got into another relationship right after that also wasn't that great and wasn't in alignment with you, just to kind of secure yourself out of that marriage because you were afraid of being alone, or out of that other relationship that's gone on. And what may be happening here at this new moon in Capricorn is that you may be realizing now that you've grown and learned and you've had enough space between escaping your ex that this new relationship ain't it either. That maybe they're a fine person, maybe you've had some good experiences, but they're not really meant for you and your needs and your values and what's important to you, and they're not really sustainable here and your best interest long term, that you're now going to have to break up with and get rid of, which can create obviously like frustrations, because that's a hard thing to do. That's going on, especially if you didn't break up with this person sooner, when you realized, maybe some of you might have realized this was happening. If not that, this could be like a job situation. Maybe some of you around the 2020, 2021 were in a really bad work situation that was happening, where either you just didn't like your job or like your boss and your coworkers were abusive or whatever. So what you may have done at some point is in order to escape that bad work situation, just gotten into any old job. I just need any old job to get me out of this crappy one here that's in. And what you could be realizing at this point here is that that job that you escaped to it also wasn't a good move for you. Also was not a good move for you because you weren't really that thoughtful about like what your needs were in the situation here. And it's not working for you financially. It's not working for you in a bunch of ways. And now you've got to fix that and redo that here after the damage has been done, you know, in order for you to move forward, which is also clearly a bit hard here. That could be going on. So it could be something like that that's happening. Okay. Now, maybe, sorry, I think that's all I'm going to say there. So I think you're kind of getting the gist of how this might go, right? And, but now maybe I'll compare and contrast that with the better example, right? Because those were two examples about people who maybe didn't catch that this was needed early on and then that happened. Well, what about the people who since April of 2022 realized they needed to slow down? Well, what could have happened, maybe to use those two examples in a more helpful way, is that what could have happened is that some of you in between April 2020 to earlier this year could have been escaping from an ex and a bad marriage. And what you either could have done is this: in April of this year, you either could have realized that you just don't want to be in a relationship. You need time to like learn about yourself and who you are. And you could have done that. Or what could have happened in April of 2020 is that you could have realized that you got in a new relationship as a rebound, but that it wasn't the right relationship for you. And in April of 2020, you could have ended it before it started, right? Or ended it before it really got too far because you knew you weren't right. And if that's your example, then what may happen now is that you're not in a relationship, especially not a bad one, that's a rebound, that isn't resonating with you. You took the time to get single, right? And to know yourself and to not drag anyone else into your trauma and healing. And what you could realize now is that you're in a fine place. You don't have to break up with someone or upset someone, but that there are a few little tweaks you could still make to yourself and your perspective on partnerships and on relationships here, so that you don't give your power away like maybe you used to here, and can meet partners who are a better fit for you. And you may tweak the pre-existing relationships that have always been in your life, you know, with coworkers and family members a little bit to just be more in a way that you can feel more confident about. Okay. And so that's a way that the better people on the better end are getting this. And then to use the second example, there are some of you who, the job situation, right? So another way to do the better of this is that some of you from April, or from the 2020 to 2022, the beginning of this year, had a bad job situation that you didn't like, that you were escaping. And what some of you could have done here is you could have either gotten into another job in April of this year that was bad and then quickly gotten out of that one, because the second job was just as bad as the first one, except maybe in a different way, and found another job that was more suitable for your needs. Or if not that, then some of you could have kind of stayed in this like challenging situation, the challenging job, and planned your exit in a more secure way behind the scenes, right? Where you were building your own business behind the scenes, or coming up with another source of income behind the scenes, or looking for another job behind the scenes as this happened, even if it wasn't the most pleasant experience to do here, so that you could bring things together in a better way. And where that would have left you now at this new moon in Capricorn here is that you either found a better job by now that's not as abusive or upsetting as the last one, or you still haven't found a job and you're still in this uncomfortable one here, but you are finally now able to leave that uncomfortable job and get a better situation for yourself here as you move forward. That's going to work for you as you move onwards. So that's what I want to say there as some examples that's going on. That really depends on how you handled the past few months, which is what Capricorn's all about. How did you do? Well, now we'll see and get graded on it. here that's coming into play. Okay, now I'm just going to take a look here at your insight degree very quickly before I pull your card. The insight degrees were not written by me. They were written by someone else named Elias Lonsdale, who channeled the meanings for each of the degrees from Spirit. However, I really admire, respect, and appreciate his interpretations, so I like to look at them here to give more information on what's going on here. I'm going to look at this new moon is at 1 degree Capricorn. I'm going to look at 1 and 2, I believe. 1 degree Capricorn says, standing on the inside of life, protected and guarded, guided and led, held fast, kept so far back inside that what does express itself is purely a ceremonial display, a formal declaration. So what does this mean to me? I like the protected and guarded, guided and led. And I think what that means to me, right, is that everyone, I think this is applying to everyone, is that everyone now is starting to realize a better approach to their life that is going to help them move forward, right? So the people who have an easier time of this energy are going to feel more constructive. They're going to fix things to make things come together. And people who are on the more negative end of this energy are still going to feel like, at least I'm figuring out now. At least I'm figuring out now how to fix this stuff so that it doesn't go on any longer here. Okay. The observer or witness empowered to prevail, able to see, to realize, to comprehend the mysteries, clairvoyance, keenly sensing and viewing meaning and value, purpose, and spirit backbone. So very strongly and steadily directed from within, that there is no outer, there is no thing to do. So this is a very, not only is this us, I think, this inside degree saying that no matter who you are, you're seeing, I think, this new approach and the usefulness of it and how important it is to fix these things and all of that. But that I think there's an inner conviction. There is a deep down inner conviction here that something does need to be fixed or reevaluated or reassessed here as we move forward. Okay. Not only that, but this is very interesting too. It says you center yourself and align with who you truly are and stalwartly remain in the place of authority and power. So maybe this is some advice. Maybe this inside degree is offering some advice here that for those of you who know you got to redo stuff and it's a little daunting, here, center yourself before you act and surprise people and things. Center yourself in the truth of what you're doing so that you don't get swayed, by these, what you're fixing and by the emotions that may come up with it. Because I do think that what we're fixing is going to take like the whole winter month, like another 3 to 4 weeks to fully do, and of course Mars to go direct, which is going to happen at the end of this time period. Okay. What else? Oh, sorry. My family's trying to call me this whole video. They just won't give up. I'm going to call them back in a minute. Okay. Then I want to look at the next degree here, 2 degrees Capricorn. It says, it is useless to know certain things out of context. If you have always known something crucially important, that kind of knowing does not serve you any longer. So you must place yourself in the antithesis of what you've always known, and then what all seems lost, chaotic, and super strange, you must find deep inside yourself that spark of what you have always known. So I think what this means, and this is fundamentally how I do astrology, like we need the context. It's useless to know things without that. But on another note relevant to this horoscope here, I think now we're feeling more wisdom and inner guidance about what needs to be done in our life to fix it here, because we're finally getting the context, right? The understanding of like what has been going on in our lives and why things have been happening, and a more holistic approach about what does serve us here and what doesn't, perhaps by being in some situations that are not really what we wanted them to be. Okay, and I think that's all I'm going to say there. Okay, because that's it, I'm going to go ahead and pull your card. Okay, so let's do that. Your card for this time period is the 10 of Swords. Wow. Up right here, and we've got the 4 of Pentacles reversed. What is this about? The 10 of Swords to me is about endings here, or if not endings, big change, fundamental change that does need to happen here, especially with things that are out of alignment. And the 4 of Pentacles to me too does indicate that that change can feel a little frustrating here, and that we need to do it. We need to do it here, and to kind of let go of the things that aren't working so that we can move forward. So I think that that's the advice that I want to give here with the cards is that I do believe that for almost all of us, something needs to be reworked in our life that isn't right, even though obviously there are varying degrees, and there's a need to do it and to not put it off. Maybe that's the message. There's a need to make these readjustments and to not put it off too much longer, you know, because some of you may be watching this video and thinking, well, something does need to be readjusted in my life, but isn't that important? Maybe I'll do it 5 months from now. Maybe I'll do it a year from now, you know? And I think my thought here is like, no, I would do it now in the next month. I would do it now instead of wait, because if you wait, it just might get worse. You know, it just might get worse. Might not fix itself, especially too, because I need to know there is like a yod to like the South Node in Scorpio going on at this time as well, right? And the from Mars and Chiron and Scorpio's all about change, you know, and endings and change and transformation, death. So I think that that's the thought that the tarot wants to leave you on. Something needs to be readjusted. Here, don't put it off much longer, because it's only going to get worse. Do it now and nip it in the bud so that you don't have to deal with it, and you can be here in a much, much better place. That's going on. Also, another note is like it may feel destabilizing temporarily, because like redoing and refixing things is uncomfortable. It may feel uncomfortable temporarily here, or messy temporarily. Here, like you're being a little uprooted, but by the end of fixing these things, you're actually going to feel more grounded and much stronger here as you move forward. So make these changes. Don't put it off much longer, even if it feels unsettling or scary, because it's going to help you feel much better here as you move forward. Okay. And don't push things under the rug. Like now is not the time to push things under the rug here. If there's an issue, I think it does need to be addressed here for the better. Okay. What else do I want to say? I think there is a need too to be flexible. Sometimes the Four of Pentacles can be a little stubborn. Flexible here as you adjust some of these things here and figure them out. It doesn't mean not adjust them. Things do need to be adjusted to be more in tune with your needs and values, but there's a lot of leeway about how that happens, especially with Mars and Gemini, you know, and to be more flexible about how you adjust things and as you go through the process here, because I think that'll make it easier for you to do so that you don't get tripped up at small arguments or disagreements or things that may come up later on. Okay, and I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that you all have happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and I will talk to you on the next video. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you later.